Hello and welcome to a special edition of a series we're going to call Coaches Speaking Out About Racism in America. My name is Bryan Houston, and I'm very honored to have as my first guest in this conversation Coach Carlos Lynn. He is the head football coach at Cedar Hill High School in Texas, in the Dallas area. Coach Lynn, first of all, thank you very much for agreeing to do this with a total stranger. You're a brave man.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, Coach. We've all seen what's been going on in this country now for the last week or so, ever since we saw the horrific video of the policeman choking the life out of George Floyd. I'm 62 years old. I've seen a lot of these kind of videos, but for some reason, this one has resonated with me, as it seems like it's resonated with all people. And we've seen since then, initially violent protests, and then it seems like as we've gone on, we've seen less violence. We've seen a lot more diversity in these protests now. And so I guess what I want to do first is just ask you where your head is with all of this right now, having watched it and seen what's going on right now.
Of course, when you see that footage, just like everyone else, if you have a pulse and if you have a bit of human decency, you're outraged, and I mean you're appalled at the things that you saw in that video. I was raised by my grandparents. And my grandfather, he told me that, when I went off to college, he said, that BS degree is all right, but nothing will ever beat that CS degree, and that's that common sense. And I really believe that a lot of the things that we're dealing with are just common sense deals. With watching that video, watching what happened and how it transpired. Of course, we all know that. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It just takes to me. It just takes a little common sense. But after reflecting and hearing everybody's opinion, because everyone has one at this point. I'm just resolved to the fact that when you're dealing with humans and you're dealing with justice, you just got to do what's right. And that's not politics, that's not favoritism, that's not prejudice, that's just black and white. It's right versus wrong. And when we do what's right, right things happen.
One of the things that I've seen from a number of my Black friends who I worked with in the media over the years, they put out on social media, many of them, just all they said in their tweets or whatever was just, "I'm just so tired." And that's all they said. How do you feel? Do you feel the same way?
After a while, I'm 47. I'll be 48 in December. And after when you walk a mile in someone's shoes and you understand their plight, and nothing ever really seems to get fixed. Nothing ever really seems to operate in the fashion that you're looking for. At some point, you will get exhausted. At some point, you will throw up your hands and say, "Hey, man, I mean, are things ever going to change? Are things ever going to, swing in our favor, swing in my favor?" So yeah, that sense of I would say it's more frustration than fatigue. You're frustrated at the process. You would think by now, after so many, and you don't want to really get, you don't want to get at ease with saying that this is how it's going to be. What has struck a real chord with me is all of the names that you see that people are naming, And over the years, you remember those names, you remember those situations, and you never want to get numb to the fact that and these people, their lives meant something, and how they died, was just not right. So you will hope that at this time, with that frustration will come some, concrete answers. There will come some things that will be put into practice that will allow, people to feel like, okay, we are really gaining ground. It's not just lip service. It's not just for this time right now. It's for the long haul.
Coach is a white man, and particularly a white man that's older now, empty nester, got a young man out off the payroll and living on his own. I always tried to treat everyone with respect and dignity, but I confess that I didn't do enough, and I'm learning that now at my age. So I guess the first thing I want to do is ask you to help me understand what it is like, what it has been like for you to be a black man. Where did you grow up? In the Dallas area?
Yes, sir.
So help me to understand what that was like for you growing up. What kind of things did you experience?
Well, it's amazing that you asked that. All of our childhood, I mean, I guess we would consider ourselves, poor, especially up against, how we're living today. Like I said, I was raised by my grandparents. I slept in the same bed with my grandfather when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
That was my upbringing was a little bit different with the different generation. The things that my grandparents endured were a lot more horrific than what I endured growing up. But they never allowed us to make excuses. They never allowed us to we felt like we're subpar, or we felt like that we couldn't achieve greatness at whatever it was that we were doing, just because they knew the gap that was there between just your average African American male versus everyone else. The competition was great, and not only that, you are behind just at birth. And those sentiments alone really fueled and motivated me to try to be better, to try to do better. It's crazy. I grew up in the Wilma Hutchins area in Dallas. I went to Wilma Hutchins High School, and Wilma Hutchins was 99.9% black. So that's who we grew up with. That's who we grew up around. At the same time, I went to college at East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma, and at that time in the mid '90s, early '90s, Ada was 99.9% white, so it was definitely a culture shock. But I believe the good Lord, in His infinite wisdom, knew that at some point that I would need that diversity, that I would need those interactions with people that didn't look like me, so that I could function in this world. And I thank God for the people that I was surrounded with at that time that nurtured me and brought me along, and that saw the potential in me. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have both of those backgrounds: the Wilma Hutchins background, the background that I learned in Ada, and it was different. We were policed different in Ada. We were pulled over, and we were profiled, and all of that, and we were a long way away from home, and it was just us. And we had about 5 or 6 guys at that time that was from the DFW area, and we really didn't go anywhere by ourselves. We stuck with our group, and we tried to, look after our best interests as much as we possibly could. Is because we knew that we had to. We knew that we were going to be looked at a little bit different. But being an athlete, that has always helped out. Athletics have always been before society. The first integrations happened on the fields and the courts before they happened in our neighborhoods. So athletics has always been that vehicle that has allowed people to stomach those differences that we so often sometimes have. So being in that arena and having that brotherhood, it kind of lightened the load a little bit than it would probably for someone that was outside of those circles.
Living in the Black community in the Dallas area, you talked about being policed differently, but did you feel that tension of whenever a police officer or police car was behind you, having to be a little bit nervous about how you might be handled or what might happen, even if you weren't even doing anything wrong?
Absolutely. We didn't have those talks that we have now, because it was, that was kind of pre-Rodney King. Mm-hmm. So those things weren't, they may have been happening, but they weren't being captured on video, and they weren't spoken about as much as they are now. But we definitely knew that we had to be a lot more courteous and a lot more just on our P's and Q's. When we were dealing with law enforcement or anyone that was outside of our race that we had to deal with. And my grandfather always talked about, you have to run a little faster. You have to run a little farther. So, growing up in that type of background and understanding those dynamics and growing up and in interaction with people, that helped a lot. I listened, and it has helped me to this day. I have a wide range of associates and network friends that I hold near and dear to my heart. But had I not had that type of upbringing, and I had the counsel of wise people like my grandfather and my grandmother, I don't know where I would be.
Coach, you I don't want to lose your internet here. Oh, good. I was afraid I was going to lose you. My internet again is wonky. So, do you have children now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I have a 15-year-old son.
And so you obviously now are having to have those kind of conversations that maybe you didn't have with your grandparents. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So tell me what you're telling him.
We have this weekly family Bible study with my son, my wife, and I. And one of the things that we've created our family core values. And what I'm telling my son, if you just take these 4 core values, and you operate in these core values, a lot of conversations that a lot of people are having now, you're not going to have to have those same conversations. I'm not going to have those same conversations with you. It's kind of like that CS degree that my grandfather was telling me about. Man, some things are just right. I say yes sir and no sir to everyone, grown-ups to my students. It was just ingrained in me, and it costs you nothing to be polite. And I try to tell him that just because someone else reacts differently than you do, that doesn't give you the right to operate outside your character. And so those things that we try to instill in him are just common sense things. Common sense things. If you see Bryan Houston, you're gonna give him respect. If you see the janitor that cleans up in the locker room, you're going to give him respect. When you go down to the cafeteria and that lady that's serving you food, you're going to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am to her. It doesn't matter if they're an administrator, it doesn't matter if they're working in the garden. It doesn't matter. You just treat people right, and you do the right things. And when you do the right things typically happen to you. Does wrong things happen to right people all day, every day? But your response. What is your responsibility? You can't control the things that you can't control, but those that you can control, that's what you worry about.
Has he had to encounter anything that he's come home to you angry about or upset about?
He hasn't, and I must admit he's a little bit more sheltered. This is a different world. This is a iPhone and PS4 and Xbox world. But we've tried to, all of my staffs that I've had an opportunity to be a part of. He's a field house kid, so he has been integrated with different races and relationships. He grew up playing, football and baseball, and all of his teams were integrated as well. So he understands those dynamics, and I just believe what you train your kids, they'll do. And he doesn't know hate. He hadn't seen any type of prejudice or racism modeled. So he doesn't get it. He has my son is a 2-time cancer survivor. So he's been in those cancer wards and cancer camps. He has friends all over the country, all different colors, because they have that main thing. They've gone through that battle together. So he's had a little different experience. It's been good though. It's been good, and not knock on wood. I hope that he doesn't ever have to encounter some of the things that we're seeing now.
And how is he doing right now?
He's about 2 years cancer free right now.
That's awesome.
He had a big surgery in 2017, and he came through with flying colors on that, and it's just been a blessing to kind of get him back on a course of normalcy, without radiation, without chemo, without visiting the doctor, so wearing masks and all that stuff, that's not nothing new to the Lynn household. We've been doing that.
Well, I'm so glad to hear he's doing well. And so today you guys got back on the field in the midst of COVID-19. I know football practice is completely different than anything you've ever done before now with all of that and summer workouts. But when all this went down last week, did you ever talk to your team about the things that are going on right now?
We just like everyone else, we've been having Zoom meetings, and we've been having Google Hangout meetings, and my position coaches have done an outstanding job of making sure that those kids that our biggest goal over this COVID-19, and even with the social injustice issues that we're dealing with now, our biggest thing is just always being able to check the pulse of our kids, to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that they're eating, to make sure that they're trying to stay in some semblance of shape. And now is to make sure that their mental health is in good shape. Where are you? Letting them speak and listening and trying to be just a shoulder for them to lean on, or someone that they need to vent to. But I must say, our parents in our community have done an awesome job of keeping our kids informed and focused, and making sure that they have the right mental attitude about what's going on in the world. I've asked our kids if they wanted to meet about this on a grand scale, and they're, Coach, we're good. They are socially conscious. I really believe our community has done a real good job of really making sure that our kids are taken care of. Our superintendent of schools spoke to the kids today, just about, social justice and things that we should do. And we're going to do that all this week. Our chief of police will speak tomorrow. The mayor will speak on Wednesday. Our fire chief will speak on Thursday, and we're going to have someone from the city council to speak on Friday. So we want these upfront issues to we want them, they hear our coaches' voices all of the time, but they need to hear what people in the outside world thinks and how they feel and the advice that they would give these young men. So we're trying to keep those things right up front. We're not trying to hide from them. We're not trying to duck and dodge them at no point. We want to get our kids the best information that they can have so that they can make solid decisions.
Did you ever imagine when you got into the coaching profession that you'd have to be dealing with issues like this in the process of coaching your football team to just to be winners?
Right. It's funny, as a young coach, you only think about the X's and O's, and, you only think about, trying to win a ball game. And, as you mature in this business, you understand that it's way bigger than X's and O's. You understand that it's way bigger than wins and losses. And the times that we have focused on building men and training men for this world, regardless to their athletic ability or not, those are the times that we consider ourselves to be the most successful. Our program has really kind of intermingled all of these types of issues and things that you deal with inside of our program. There's always a teachable moment that we can learn from. As a veteran coach now, I understand that that's a heck of a lot more important than, if I can save a life versus winning a ball game, I'm gonna save their life.
Based on what you're seeing right now and reaction from the white community marching alongside, in a lot of cases, the black community, are you optimistic that we may actually start seeing some real change, or are you concerned that after a few weeks this is all going to just kind of blow over and it'll just go back to being the same old, same old?
That's my worry, Bryan. That's my worry. You have a moment versus the movement. The moment is fleeting. We can, you get the warm fuzzies for a moment, but the movement, you have to be engaged for the long haul. And hopefully this has been the tipping point for a movement more so than the moment. I think for the first time, we've seen so much transparency by our white brothers and sisters, and I think you asked about that being tired and that fatigueness earlier. I think some of our white brothers and sisters are tired and fatigued. I've never used broad statements to judge anybody, and I know that there's some good policemen out there. I know that there's some fantastic white brothers and sisters out there, because I'm a product of some of those people that have helped me along the way and that are friends, great friends even right now. And what's happening is the truth is being embraced. And when you embrace the truth, I think you can have some possible movement. You can have some possible change. Because if you can't face it, you can't fix it. If you never face what's true, is this right or is this wrong? And nothing else. Don't try to slant it. Don't try to spin it. Don't try to. We're dealing with this one issue. Let's deal with this one issue, and down the line we'll deal with the rest. But as long as we can deal with this truth that's in our face, that there needs to be some type of social justice reform or some type of police reform, then I think some of those other things that we like to spin and swing to can be agreed upon as well and moved upon as well. But we have to deal with the issues right now, and I think that truth has hit us in the face, and I think it's for the first time in quite some time, the masses have accepted that this is a truth that needs to be changed.
I'm going to wind this down. I've just got a couple more questions. One of the things I always loved about sports, and I covered sports for a long time, high school, college, big schools, small schools, African-American predominant schools, predominantly white schools. The thing I always loved about sports is that the only color people thought about them was the color of the uniform you had on. And you just didn't think about things in terms of race with sports. Is that a correct perspective, or have you seen situations where you had to step in and really get kids to work together to get beyond things like that?
You know, that's the beauty of sports, Bryan. That's the beauty of athletics is those barriers were broken, you know, so long ago. Like I said, long before our, you know, at large society embraced the notion of black and white and different people living together. That huddle has always been sacred. It's always, that locker room has always been sacred. So that's why I believe that I'm in athletics, is just because, you know, you can teach so many things. You can teach so many things, and wherever the needle is pointing, that's where we go. And it just happened to be pointing right now to this pandemic and this racial issues that we're having right now. But athletics can cure it. You know, everybody wants football back. Everybody is ready for some NBA basketball. There'll be so many people watching the Colonial this week. We get to see some professional golf. Even people that don't even like golf, they're gonna be watching. It's just the beauty of sports, man. It's you know, God has blessed us with athletics, and we need to cherish it because it has saved a lot of lives, and it has been the spearhead of a lot of movements.
What can I do? What can people like me do to help this situation get better, to help make things change?
You know, I think what you're doing now, I break it down in three ways. You know, and I've had a lot of my, you know, white brothers coaching in the coaching fraternity to reach out to me, and I tell them the same thing. The first thing is you have to listen. You have to listen. You have to be, you know, slow to speak. And if you don't know something, don't assume, ask the question. I don't care how difficult it is. I don't care how uncomfortable it is, because we're in an uncomfortable time. It's not comfortable for anybody. It's not comfortable for me to answer the question. But that duty falls on me at this time too. I can't sugarcoat it. I have to be able to say, okay, Bryan, this is what we're dealing with. This is how we have to do it. So just listening helps you to educate yourself just a little bit around perspective, just because all of our perspectives and points of view have been different, you know. So when, you know, when I walk into Walmart and when you walk into the Walmart, it's two different conversations going on.
Sure.
So if you don't ever think about the conversation that they're having about me until I tell you, then it's up to you to listen and digest their point of view. The next thing is to love. Man, the Bible said love covers a multitude of sins. We have to operate in love in our communication. So I can be angry and boisterous and cussing and fussing. You're not going to be too apt to listen to that. Mm-hmm. The conversation that we're having now is a conversation in love. You reached out to me in love. I responded in love. Now we're communicating in love. Love does not mean be devoid of the truth. You still have to tell the truth. If you agree or disagree, then that's fine. But just do it in love. And I think that has hindered us all of these years in the communication piece, because everyone is seeking to be heard and heard in a dominant fashion versus listening in love and receiving in love. And then when the opportunity to come back, being able to speak in love. And the last thing is you have to lead. We cannot do this as African American people. We cannot do this without our white brothers and sisters. It's no way. We cannot move forward without our white brothers and sisters leading the way in some of these systemic changes that need to be made. And I really believe that, you know, there's a you know, in our society, our social issues have to be equal or greater than our economic issues. Because I think those social issues, if we take care of them, that'll take care of a lot of the economic issues. And I think sometimes we get bogged down in trying to get this, you know, American pie so sweet that we forget the people that don't even have a piece of the crust.
Right.
So, you know, that's what I say. Listen, love, and lead the way in the change. Lead the way in policy changes. Lead the way in making sure that, you know, we're policed the right way, and it's fair and it's favorable and it's just. I believe those are the three ways that our white brothers and sisters can really help us.
Is there anything that I have not asked you, or anything that's still out there that you would like to say just as we close?
You know, I would like to say that, you know, we have to continue to create this environment that we have right now. There's been more dialogue, there's been more conversation, there's been more communication about the so-called elephant in the room in the past 2 weeks than there probably ever have been. And I really believe that this atmosphere that we have, this environment that we have right now, to be able to openly speak on issues, openly speak and have a great conversation about this for the long haul. You know, like I know, it's not going to happen overnight. The change is not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over time. But if we close the environment, if we close the atmosphere in which we have now, and go back to business as usual, where everybody denying the truth, justifying wrong, spinning, you know, going across on other tangents that's not even the issue, then we're going to have a hard time. Keep the environment right. Keep the environment. You know, that's why I'm doing this every day this week. In case if somebody has something to say, they know that the environment is conducive to have great communication and conversation and love.
Coach, I'm just going to tell you, this is the first one of these I've done. You're going to be a tough act to follow.
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity, Bryan. Thank you for reaching out to me.
It was better than I could have hoped. I learned a lot. I appreciate your heart and your graciousness, because you've got every right to be a really angry person. Everybody in your community, every black man or woman in this country's got a right to be extremely angry with all of us. And I appreciate your heart to have this kind of conversation and have it in your manner in having that conversation has been a blessing to me, just to be able to participate in this. So I, again, can't thank you enough. Wish you the best of luck getting through COVID-19 and getting your kids back in shape. Best wishes to your son. I hope he stays well. And God bless you, sir. I really have enjoyed getting a chance to visit with you. And I hope that now I can call you a new friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully, you know, I don't know how much football you get to see in the Metroplex, but, you know, hopefully I get a chance to see you on the sideline this fall.
Well, I would look forward to that, and I'd look forward to meeting you face to face and shaking your hand.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bryan.
Coach Carlos Lynn from Cedar Hill High School in Texas. I'm Bryan Houston. Thank you very much for watching, and we will talk to you next time.